So I'm out here driving around through this beautiful desert in the UAE, and I was just thinking about the future of cars and alternative fuels and stuff. We put up on Facebook a post allegedly about a car that somebody built in India that runs on water. Wouldn't that be absolutely wonderful? But having said that, it wouldn't be so great for us here in the desert because water's pretty sparse as it is. I mean, drinking water for sure. And unless you can put seawater in the thing, that ain't going to work. I mean, and desalination is quite expensive. Just ask the Saudis. And talking of the Saudis, this is why this is becoming a thing now. This is becoming an issue about alternative fuels, economy, emissions. This, I think, is going to become an issue certainly in 2016, definitely going forward. And the reason for this is the Saudis are introducing new CAFE requirements, and this is to do with the fact that they need to get their fuel consumption usage down, dramatically down. Would you believe that in a day, petrol and diesel, in a day, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia uses over 800,000 barrels of the stuff? Yes. And so what they're trying to do now is trying to reduce their overall average fuel consumption across their vehicle park, if you like, by 4% every year between 2016 and 2025. So it's just under a decade. So that means in order to get that average consumption down, you're going to have to introduce some very economical and very efficient vehicles into the market to counter the older cars. And there are a lot of older cars in Saudi. Unlike the UAE market is tend to be newer cars, but some of the other markets in the region tend to keep cars for much, much longer. We find older cars here get exported, but in other markets, you tend to find 10, 15-year-old cars, maybe even 20-year-old cars running around still being used every day, as they should, in fact, and some could argue that actually that's a better proposition in terms of environmental factors, because what do they call it? I don't know, there's a phrase for it, but it's from the point at which they're made to the point at which they have to be crushed or recycled, that you get far more usage out of them the longer the cars are used, and actually in the longer term is efficient. Somebody worked it out a few years back that the Land Rover Defender was actually one of the most efficient cars because it stays around so long. In fact, I don't think they ever get put out of use, do they? So coming back to the topic at hand, what is the answer then? So are we talking diesels? Well, no. A certain manufacturer will certainly testify they've had a little bit of trouble in America with their diesels, and it could be implied or alleged that perhaps they got caught cheating in terms of emissions, and that diesels weren't quite as clean as they thought they were, or as they were leading people to believe. But in fact, I believe that it's not just one manufacturer. I think that this is actually the tip of the iceberg, and it's not even the fact that whether or not you meet the requirements. It is the fact that in fact diesel is a pollutant that we have now come to realize, and they're realizing this in Europe now, where up to 80% of vehicles now in Europe in some major cities are actually diesel cars. I mean, I remember a few years ago where it was actually quite difficult to convince people to drive diesel cars. People were like, I don't want to drive that black sooty old thing, So only people that had to do a lot of mileages, commercial vehicles and stuff like that, might switch to diesel. But private consumers never used to switch to diesels. A, the sound, B, the smell, C, the black smoke. But of course, in the 90s, diesel engineering improved so dramatically that the cars visibly became cleaner, more efficient, quieter, more refined, smoother, and added bonus, quite rapid, because the torque off the line is actually really, really good. I remember driving a GTD, a diesel version of a GTI Golf, and actually having a bit of a hoot in it. It was fantastic. So are diesels the answer? No, they're not, because what they've now realized is that there's actually a lot of pollutants coming out of that diesel exhaust, including nitrogen oxide and other toxic chemicals, which are causing severe respiratory problems in people. I mean, there's some estimate I read somewhere, which I find a little staggering and somewhat hard to believe, but possibly it could be true, that as many as 60,000 deaths a year in the UK alone could be accounted for by diesel emissions. Wowzers! man, he's killing a lot of people. No, diesel, nah, that's not going to work. And we don't have them here anyway, so hey, let's keep them out. We have enough pollution here. We don't need those. So electric then. That's the answer. Electric cars. No. Electric cars, no. They are great in theory, and the whole notion and the whole romantic concept of the Tesla vehicles, the Apple of the automobile world, as it were. Yes, they are beautiful cars. Yes, they are very, very clever. Yes, they're actually quite desirable. And yes, they're bloody quick. And, they're not slow, But electric is inherently quick because electric has instant torque. It's like an on-off switch, So you don't have to wait for the torque to arrive. You don't have to wait for it to deliver. You flick a switch and off it goes. If you've ever played with an electric remote control car, when you've pushed that lever forward, it doesn't accelerate, does it? It just zaps off. It just goes. That's what electric cars do. So, in fact, I remember a few years back we drove a Rolls-Royce Phantom that Rolls-Royce was testing, and it was a full electric car. And we spoke to the engineers and said, well, it must be difficult to get such a big, heavy vehicle. That's what? Tons that car, to move under electric power. They said, well, no, we actually had to dial back the electric power because we had trouble with braking axles or warping axles and stuff like that because it was too much torque going through the drivetrain. So yes, they can be fun, they can be rapid. But here's the problem with electric cars. Two problems. First of all, I think they're a little bit of a red herring in terms of a solution because they don't actually cut energy consumption or pollution. They do from your car, so they may from the road and they may from the cities, so certainly they might help in the cities, but overall as having an impact on the climate, no, because they shift the problem. What they do is they shift the problem to where that power is coming from, and unless we are all using solar power and wind power and clean energy supply systems, that doesn't necessarily help because all we're going to do is burn more coal, more fuel, more nuclear energy, more nuclear power to create more electricity to charge all of these cars that are now running on electric. That's one problem. Secondly, range obviously is a problem with electric cars. Batteries are a problem until battery technology improves to an extent where you don't need to recharge them as often and the recharging process takes quicker or is quicker. They're unfeasible as a practical everyday car. So this brings me to the second problem. So for example, look at our market where we are right now here in the UAE. Say you live in an apartment block in Sharjah and you get home at 7 o'clock every night, you fight for a parking space and you eventually squeeze it between two patrols on a patch of sand. You get out of the car and you go, right, must charge it. You grab your plug and you go, flippin' heck, I live 7 floors up in that block over there. How the hell am I going to get power to this car? That's one person. Imagine all the residents trying to charge their cars. Unless we have an infrastructure that is put in place where there are multiple outlets everywhere, particularly in places where residents live so they can plug their car in overnight. How are we going to charge these cars? Even if you could say, okay, I can charge the car and I can use it, I could drive to Abu Dhabi and back and it would do it on one charge, fine. What do you do in the night though? Where do you charge it? Not all of us have villas, not all of us can take it at home and plug it at home. So electric cars, they sound good, and certainly there's some great concepts, but I'm not convinced that they are the solution, certainly not for us. Also, the third thing I should have just mentioned, that there is some issues in increased energy consumption in our part of the world because it gets very, very hot here. And in order to cool the car systems and in order to cool us, we use extra energy. And that's not necessarily going to help when you're driving an electric car, and it will bring your range down and you'll have to charge it again. You'll have to go look for that socket again. So what is the answer? Well, I think in the short term, until we come up with the Mr. Fusion reactor from Back to the Future, which would be nice, or something else, perhaps seawater, because we got plenty of that around here. So, unless we had something like that, or some other easily renewable source, solar panels on the roof, sails, let's just stick up big sails, and no, that ain't gonna work. So, what is the answer? Well, hopefully some answer will present itself. In the meantime, I think the only real viable answer actually are hybrid cars, because hybrid cars are traditional combustion engines combined with electric motive power, but you don't have to recharge those because the combustion engine is recharging the electric motor and the electric batteries. So you get the best of both. You can get the electric torque, you can get the long touring range of a combustion engine, and you don't have to keep plugging it in because your engine will charge that thing. And also some cars, they go for range extender hybrids, which personally I struggle with. I struggle with the notion that you've put a combustion engine into a car that doesn't actually drive the car. The purpose of that engine is as a generator, so you're carrying a generator along, which you're putting a little bit of fuel into as well, in order to charge the batteries that drives your electric drivetrain. Yeah, I don't know, I struggle with that a little bit. Maybe somebody has to convince me that that's a good idea. I'm not quite sure about it, but certainly I recommend, understand, appreciate, and have driven and have quite a bit of experience of normal hybrids, compatible hybrids, combined hybrid systems where the two are working together to drive the car. You get better fuel consumption, lower emissions, increased performance in some cases. And don't forget, you can stick a hybrid technology onto everything. It doesn't have to be like a little 4-cylinder engine. V6 hybrids. The Lexus has been selling a V8 hybrid here for quite a few years now. You know, coming up to well over 5 years at least, maybe more, in the form of the what is it? The LSH, whatever it is. I can't remember what it is. 460, whatever. 460H, whatever. So that one. That's a V8. So, year of the hybrid is what I predicted in my predictions for 2016, which you can read on motoringme.com. And I'm going to stand by that for now. When I know everybody's going to say, well, you know, fuel prices are going down and stuff. Well, yeah, fuel prices are going down at the moment, but they're going to go up again at some point because we are running out of fuel. And that's a fact. But it's not just the fuel, it's the fact that we have to reduce emissions, we have to be more efficient about what we're doing. It's getting hotter in our region, and that's because of global warming. Good, look at me sounding like a bloody environmentalist. What's up? Ah! Stop it, she said. V8 power, Hemi, yeah, good. Power good. Environment, who cares? Nah, come on, let's be honest. We have to care about the environment. So anyway, I think certainly in the short term, diesels are not the answer. Electric cars are not the answer. Hybrids are the answer. Until we come up with some really, really clever solutions like little fusion reactor things that we can just insert into our dashboard. That would be great, wouldn't it? So more on us on car reviews, on opinions and all kinds of stuff, news, views and reviews on motoringme.com. And please do follow us on all the social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Just search for Motoring Middle East, you'll find us. And on YouTube, search for Motoring Middle East. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe, share it, and tell all your friends. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next one.